As you guys may or may not know, I pride myself on being a pretty dank memer. Except my memes aren't dank, and I'm not. So, but I learned about this before Seinfeld thing, and then through this I learned about a spec script about like the characters of Seinfeld. The day I think shortly after 9/11. I didn't read it yet. But I just need to do a read of it. Like, just could not. I have like stuff to do. I have scripts to write. I'm actually into writing scripts, so this would be kind of interesting. So yeah, I'm not gonna waste time. Let's get into it. Seinfeld: The Twin Towers, an original spec script by Billy New, possibly. Here's all this stuff. So this is the cold open, the comedy night stuff. I'm not gonna read the interior, whatever, unless it's super necessary. Joey, do you ever think they ever get backed up at the gates of heaven? Too many people die at once. It just overwhelms the system. It's gotta be like the DMV on a Friday. Everyone take a number. You'll be judged in the order you slip this surely bounds of earth. God's angry at St. Peter. What's going on? Keep the line moving. I've got 3 angels on vacation. What do you want? All these poor souls just standing around reading old magazines. This has taken an eternity. I could have been in hell by now. No laugh tracks. Alright, so this is Act 1, Yankees conference room, Dag, probably a George-based thing. Yeah. George and other employees stand among NYPD and FDNY. Mr. William, I think, stands before the room next to a fire captain. A banner reads, "United we stand. Thank you, heroes." Mr. William. We all have been shaken by last Tuesday's horrific events, but through the darkness of September 11th, the light of our brave firefighters and police officers shine through. George, in the crowd next to a large firefighter. He looks up at the man with a beaming smile. Mr. William. These selfless men and women are heroes to us all. George nods his head to the firefighter and pats him on the back. The firefighter is slightly uncomfortable. Mr. William. And I could not be prouder to thank them on behalf of the entire Yankees family. Applause from the audience. George grabs the firefighter's hand to shake it and goes in for a hug. It's too much. Mr. William. Now please help yourselves to coffee and pastries. George gets in line for the spread behind a police officer and a firefighter, with his arm in a sling. George. Please, after you, sirs. No, that was awful. I'm gonna nail down the voices later. Police officer. Thank you. George. Literally the least we could do. Unless you wanted us to do less. If you truly wanted less, I'm sure we could find a way. The firefighters and officer nod. What is this guy? George. So, an interesting week. Firefighter. These have been the worst 4 days of my life. George. Horrible, horrible, and yet it must be a bit exciting. Police officer. Excuse me? George. Well, men in your profession, you want to save lives, face danger, head on. If ever there was a time. Firefighter. Buddy, I watched the South Tower collapse on half of my engine. You saying I wanted that to happen? George. George. No, I'm just suggesting. Police officer. Suggesting what? Firefighter. You've got a big mouth, you son of a bitch. He swings at George with a good arm. George ducks, and the firefighter falls forward onto the table, collapsing it. He moans. The room is stunned. Mr. William. George! Monks. I think that, I don't know what, that may be the dino, I'm not sure. It's somewhere. Jerry and George, yeah, it's the dino. Jerry and George in the booth. Each table has an American flag. Jerry's mouth in a gape. George is almost in tears. What? Jerry. It must be exciting. Exciting? Hey, I'm sorry you watched thousands of people die, but boy, that must have got the old adrenaline pumping. George. They don't know how good they have it. My whole life I've wanted to be a hero. Here it just falls onto their laps, and they don't even appreciate it. Jerry. One of these days I'm gonna sell your brain to the medical school. They discover 50 new complexes. It could be the key to all mental illness. Elaine enters and sits next to George. Elaine, hey. Jerry, hey. Elaine to George. What's wrong with you? Jerry, everything. Elaine, geez, can you believe how quickly they got this place cleaned up? This entire block was covered in dust. Jerry, I know, it's immaculate. I can't read that. It's like they made a blood sacrifice to Mr. Clean. Hey, by the way, I am so sorry about what you guys were seeing. Elaine, Brian? Meh. Jerry, meh, what do you mean, meh? He was murdered by terrorists. Elaine, this is awful. I was gonna break up with him anyway. This is really awful. Jerry, I thought you liked him. Elaine, he was nice, but in conversations he was just so animated. It was like I was dating a radio sound effects guy. Anyway, saved me an awkward dinner. Oh my, Jerry. Well, as long as it worked out for you. Jerry enters and mushes to the table. I'm gonna make a sound effect. Probably what it sounds like. Sitting next to Jerry. You remember my crazy friend Mo Anta? Elaine, you got the guy you fish at for when he goes to Florida? What about him? Kramer, look at this. Kramer hands Elaine a newspaper. She reads. Elaine, the leader of the hijackers have been identified as Egyptian national Mohammed Atta. Get out. Elena shoves Kramer from across the table. You know, he was always talking about how evil America was. Eventually I told him, why don't you do something about it? I thought he'd write his congressman. Jerry, Kramer, he crashed his plane into the World Trade Center. He slit the pilot's throat with a box cutter. Kramer, not a box cutter, my box cutter. He borrowed it last week. Elaine, even more intense. Get out! You have to do something. Kramer, oh, you better believe it. I'm getting that box cutter replaced. Jerry to Elaine, is this it? Is this how the world ends? Kramer, Jerry, this was a Matsema, whatever. The finest parcel opener produced in all of the Hokaku prefecture. Triple reinforced grip. And when you're slicing with that baby, oh mama, you feel like a grocery clerk on Christmas morn. Kramer rises from the booth. We might have lost our neighbors, but the bleeding stops here. Kramer raises his hand in salute. He exits as the waitress drops off Jerry and George's plates. Elaine's cell rings. She answers. Hello, this is she. What? When? Yes, I'll be right there. Hangs up. Brian's alive. They pulled him from the rubble. He's in the hospital. Jerry. Oh my god. George. So you're back together. Elaine deflates. Jerry. Get him a card from the gift shop. Glad you're alive. It's not you. It's me. Elaine rises. That's very clever. You should write for Hallmark. Jerry. Nah, I like my job. She exits. Jerry goes in for a bite of his sandwich, but stops. He notices something. Jerry. What is this? George. What? Jerry dabs his finger on the bread and examines it. Jerry. I think it's dust. George. Dust? Jerry. Like dust. George. Eat around it. Jerry. I can't eat this. This could have been a person. Hey Larry, could I get another sandwich? Larry the manager comes over. Larry, what's the matter? George. This one has a little dust on it. Larry. Dust? 3,000 people are dead, you know. Jerry. I know, Larry, the whole city has dust on it. Our hearts are covered in dust. You're gonna eat that sandwich, or you're not eating at all. Larry goes to the counter and points out Jerry to the waitress. Larry. He doesn't get anything until he eats that sandwich. Think he's too good for dust. That dust is America. Jerry to George. Come on, let's go. George. What about my lunch? Jerry. I'll buy you another one. They get up and walk towards the register. George. Oh boy, can't enjoy a pastry, can't enjoy a sandwich. Those terrorists really did it. Oh my god. George accidentally bumps into a passing woman. He grabs her shoulders to keep her from falling. Woman, that touch, I know it. She caresses George's face. He and Jerry are confused. Woman, oh my god, Oh no, oh no. You're the man who saved me from the World Trade Center. George considers the opportunity. He turns to Jerry for an opinion, who shakes his head. Are you out of your mind? George. Yes, I am. The woman embraces George. Hospital. Day. Elaine sits at Brian's bedside as he recounts his tale. I was just sitting at my computer typing away. Elaine nods and mimes typing and making keystroke sounds. Brian. And then I heard this rolling sound. I don't know if that's a rolling sound, but okay. Elaine tries to hide her annoyance. Brian. And then boom! Elaine. Brian. High school gymnasium. Day. A banner reads, Terrorism victims claims and administration. A volunteer passes out coffee down the line. Kramer takes a cup, winking. He turns to a sad man behind him. The mood is dead in here. What are you here for? Sad man. Tower 7 fell on my dog. Kramer is taken aback and gives the man a pat on the shoulder. The administration calls from the table in the front. Claims administrator. Next. Kramer. Yeah, I'd like to make a claim property loss. Claims administrator. Estimated value. Kramer. 20. Claims administrator. 20,000. Okay. Kramer. No, $20. Claims administrator. Excuse me? Kramer. Muhammad Atta borrowed my box cutter. I want a replacement. Claims administrator. Muhammad Atta borrowed your box cutter? You realize we're all here because of your damn box cutter? We ain't giving out box cutters. We don't go to the burn unit to bum a cigarette. Kramer. Hey, how about a little compassion? Claims administrator. To the room. This guy gave Muhammad Atta his box cutter. Boos from the room, shouts of traitor and terrorist. Kramer. I'm the victim here. Claims administrator. You better get your box cutting behind out of here before I cut it myself. Kramer pointing. This isn't over. Oh no. The crowd throws paper and coffee at Kramer as he exits. Support group meeting. Day. Oh no, I don't like this. This is so bad. George sits among a dozen survivors. We thought he must have died in the collapse. We thought you must have died in the collapse. How did you get out? George. Well, you see, as the ground gave way beneath me, I jumped at a moment just such that I fell. As I fell, I floated between the floors, ultimately landing softly atop of the rubble. I would have said goodbye, but by then I was quite tired. Female survivor. Carrying 20 people down 80 flights of stairs, we couldn't even make out your face through all the smoke. All I could hear was you coughing and sneezing. Yeah, the coughing, the sneezing, the wheezing. Male survivor 2. A brave cough from a very distinctive sneeze. Female survivor 2. The sneeze stood out to me as well. Agreement from the room. Yes, sneeze. Female survivor. It was the sneeze of a hero. George. Feeling modestly. Well, yes. Male survivor 2, raising his coffee cup. To George Costanza. Jerry Saab. S-A-A-B. Night. Jerry in the driver's seat next to Becca, his date. Becca. I had a great time tonight. It's so nice to forget about this tragedy for a couple hours. Jerry. You've been volunteering all week at Ground Zero. Even the search dogs deserve a night out. Send them to Lee Critique. I'll pay. Becca. That's really sweet. See you soon. Jerry. Definitely. Both smile and lean in for a kiss until Jerry freezes. From Jerry's POV, he can see a point of view. We can see a speck of dust in Becca's teeth. Becca opens her eyes, confused as Jerry recoils. Becca. What? 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 Unsure, Jerry awkwardly motions to his teeth. Jerry's apartment. Day. Jerry and Elaine. Elaine. You wouldn't kiss her because of dust? Jerry. It was all I could see. It was coming at me like a 747. She was, and she said she couldn't date someone so, she said she couldn't date someone so petty. What am I supposed to do? The entire city is filthy now. Elaine, this is New York, what you're talking about. Jerry, this dust isn't like other dust. This is different dust. Elaine, there is no different dust. Jerry, of course there's different dust. This isn't subway dust or under the bed dust. Not even creepy haunted house dust. Elaine, what's the difference? Jerry, it's different. Elaine runs her finger across the table and blows the residue at Jerry. He flinches and pulls his collar up as a shield. George enters wearing a flashy new blazer. Jerry. But then, why should I feel dust when the real monster stands before us? Elaine. Where'd that come from? George. You like it? My survivors bought it for me. Apparently I tore mine off and used it as a tourniquet on one of their legs, Debbie. No, maybe it was Jan. Jerry. So strange that you'd forget. Kramer enters. Jerry. Any luck? Kramer. Nada. They kicked me to the curb like an orphan begging for soup. This is how it starts, Jerry. An attack or two, sure, but the terrorists, they made the country tear itself apart from the inside. Newman spots Kramer from the hall and enters with a full poster sack. Newman. Did you get it? Kramer. They're stonewalling me. Newman. But I've got a fresh haul ready to go. Hello, Jerry. Jerry. Hello, Newman. What's all this? Newman. Castaways from the island of misfit postage. Jerry. You're opening people's mail? Newman. A postal officer would never dream of it. We uphold a sacred vow to deliver all parcels to their destination or bearing that return them distinctly to their origin. But should the address be illegible and no return sender made known, well, Elaine. You ever get anything good? Kramer. Oh yeah. Last Easter we found an envelope with 650 loose jelly beans. That'll keep your mojo flowing. Newman. I've got a good feeling about this lot. Open one. Kramer attempts to open a box with his hands. He fights the tape with no avail, his body twisting until he falls backwards to the floor. He rises and slams the package on the table. Kramer. This is outrageous. Newman. Just use a key. Kramer. What are we, barbarians? This box isn't open until I have justice. George. What are you gonna do? Jackie Chale's office. Day. Jackie is on the phone. Jackie, a box cutter for cutting boxes? Phone booth. Continuous. Kramer in the booth. Kramer. And they refuse to get me a new one. Intercut Jackie and Kramer. Jackie. Why can't you buy another box cutter? I can see 3 stores from my window that sell box cutters. Pharmacy, Budga, Home Depot. Kramer. It's the principle of the matter. A likely widow bangs on the glass. A likely widow bangs on the glass, holding up a picture of a banker. Likely widow. Please, have you seen my husband? Kramer, deeply uncomfortable. Yeah, no English. Jackie. What's the commotion? Where are you? Kramer. If I just got that was really awful. Kramer. A phone booth in Tribecar. Jackie. A phone booth? Whose phone booth? Why are you calling me from a phone booth? Kramer. In case my home's wiretapped. I don't know how far up this goes. Jackie. You'd better believe I don't need that kind of trouble, Kramer. It could be detrimental. Personus. Injurious. Kramer. Come on, Jackie, I need you. Jackie Chale's office. Jackie. You're on your own, this one, Kramer. You call me again, you're getting slapped with a restraining order. God bless America. Jackie hangs up and turns to the client in his office. Jackie. My apologies, gentlemen. Now you say you carried out certain services for the United States government. The two Saudi sheiks sitting across from Jackie nod. Montage various. Alan Jackson's Where Were You plays. Support group meeting. Day. George comforts and hugs tearful survivors. Support meeting room. Later. The survivors part to allow George first picks of coffee and pastries. Support group. Later. George is draped with a sash reading NYC's Greatest Hero. Sidewalk. Day. Passerbys applaud George as he walks down the street, still wearing the sash. Video store. Day. The clerk offers George a complimentary tub of popcorn and, from under the counter, a XXX VHS. Bakery. Day. The baker refuses payment from George for a box of pastries. Farmhouse. Day. The farmer in a sling from Yankee Stadium washes his truck as George walks past. George smiles and tips his coffee and pastry in acknowledgement as the firefighter looks bemused. Staten Island ferry. Twilight. George looks up in awe from the deck as the ferry passes the Statue of Liberty. Upon finishing his pastry, he wipes his mouth with the sash. Hospital room. Day. Elaine again at Brian's bedside, slouched in his chair. They had me in surgery last night to put steel rods in my leg. I woke up in the middle of it. Elaine. Oh my God. Brian. I couldn't feel anything, but I heard everything. Elaine. Oh my God. Brian. There must have been a drill. Zing, 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 zing. Elaine. Look, Brian, I'm overjoyed that you survived this horrific event. Brian. Me too. Elaine. But I've been thinking. Brian, hold on. I want to see this. Brian turns up the TV. TV report. Ground Zero. A reporter interviews George's survivors. Male survivor. We were trapped behind the flames, praying for a quick death. In the hospital room and TV. Brian. Those are my co-workers. Female survivor. We're only alive because of Mr. Costanza. She thrusts George behind the camera. Reporter. George, people have called you the bravest New Yorker to ever live. George. Well, that's not for me to decide. Hospital room. Wait a minute. That must be the man who saved me. Ground Zero. As the report wraps up, a beautiful woman, Rachel, walks over. She holds a single rose. Rachel. What you did was extraordinary. George. Please, I really didn't do anything. Rachel. My husband died in the attacks. Handing the rose to George. I'm Rachel. George's bedroom. Night. George and Rachel kiss passionately in bed. She breaks. I'm sorry, I just can't stop thinking about what it must have been like inside the towers. The smoke, the flames. I can't imagine. George. Neither can I. Rachel. But you were there. George. Which is why I can't imagine. I can only know. Rachel. I never thought I'd be with someone so soon. I wonder if this is what Richard would want. George. We can never know for sure, but I do know what he'd want you to be happy. Rachel. You're a good man, George Costanza. They kiss passionately. End of Act 1. I'm guessing this would be a two-parter, so this would be like the second part. That's just my guess. I've never read a Seinfeld script before. So yeah, I'm gonna stop this one here. I'm gonna make an Act 2 later. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll be back in Act 2. See ya.